Hey guys, it's Rich with another Saintly Sunday video. In this one, we are covering Saint Martha. I do apologize if you guys hear background noises. My AC kind of went out yesterday, and I'm running a dehumidifier in every single one of the fans that I have in this house, and it's like 81, 82 degrees right now. So hopefully they can come out and fix it sometime soon. But anyway, I'm going to try to edit out any background noise and all that stuff. So, yeah. I do apologize if any of that comes through after the editing process. So, like I said, today we are discussing Saint Martha. And again, I'm using The Lives of the Saints, the book by Catholic Book Publishing Company that I used last week. And also Mystic Saints and Sages by Judika Illies. Now there could be two different Saint Marthas. There's Saint Martha, the sister of Mary and Lazarus, and then there is Martha the Dominator, which some say can be the same person, some say can be a different person, a separate person. I'm going to cover them under the same person because I personally think that, it could be the same person. I think there's a strong possibility, but that's just me. So do your research and decide for yourself, as always. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get right on into it. So St. Martha's feast day is this Saturday, the 29th of July. So almost done with July. Wow, this year's just chugging along, isn't it? So a little bit about St. Martha before we get into all the more esoteric or mystic type of stories about her and the things associated with her, is that from what we know, she's from Bethany, which is about 2 miles from Jerusalem. She lived there with her brother Lazarus and her sister Mary. Whether or not it's Mary Magdalene or not, I don't think she is, but a sister Mary, a brother Lazarus, and they seem to have some importance, at least within the town or within the country. So they seem to have some importance within the area that they are in. So that should be noted that, somebody devoted to Christ back then that has importance, it carries a lot of weight. As like somebody being a follower of a political figure now, and, us looking to that person saying, I trust this person, I trust where their mindset is with regards to this political figure, and therefore I can kind of trust that. So what I'm saying is they kind of gave more validity to Christ by having a type of importance within the local area. So I think that's kind of nice to note. I don't know how much that actually weighed in the following of Christ, but I think it's important to note and kind of fun to think about just a little bit. So my thoughts on Martha, or my thoughts before reading up on Martha, comes from a story that's told in the Gospels of her being hard at work in the house and Christ being there, waiting to partake in this feast, and Mary comes out and perfumes his feet and whatnot, so anoints his feet and then wipes it off with her hair. So the thing that I always thought about Martha, because she's sitting there like, dude, Christ, tell Mary to get up and help me. I'm trying to cook you food. I'm trying to wait on you guys, which is a Middle Eastern custom, to wait on your guests. And Christ says, no, she's worshiping in the way that she needs to. She has her focus on what, or who rather, is in her presence. So therefore, she's doing just fine. Your focus is on, preparing food for the person that is here. So both had the right ideas, or the right mindset, I should say, of what they were supposed to be doing at that time in history, but Martha didn't see it. And my thoughts on Martha, until I started reading some of the other history that goes along with her is, you know, she's kind of a bitch. You know, she sits there and she says, hey, you know, tell her that she's doing wrong. It looked kind of like a tattletale. I mean, nobody likes a narc, but that's something that I thought about Martha. I'm like, why, you know, why would you rat out your own sister like that? Why do you do that? It's like a sibling rivalry. You know, trying to gain favor of Jesus as if, you know, he plays favorites. You know, that's one thing that I never understood about Martha. And then thinking about it more, it's like, okay, you are doing what you're supposed to be doing at this time. You're just complaining about somebody else not helping you, which, you know, I think we've all been there. And then I started thinking a little bit more, and I can really relate to Martha, because if any of y'all ever come over to my house, I wait on people like all the time. It's part of my Syrian heritage of, you know, when somebody comes over, you cook a feast and you wait on them. That is your job, is to make sure that your guest is as comfortable as possible. So I really relate to Martha in that aspect. So that's one thing that I was thinking about earlier whenever I was prepping for this, is, you know, she's doing what she needs to do, and she's really waiting on somebody hand and foot, and just complaining because she doesn't have the help of somebody else that should have that same or that she thinks should have that same mindset as her. So something really interesting to think about in terms of Martha. And also, she's the one that pleaded to Christ to bring Lazarus back from the dead after 4 days. So we have two instances where we see Martha in the Gospels. Now, here's where things start getting interesting. After Christ died and resurrected and, you know, ascended into heaven, you know, of course, Mary Magdalene was, you know, needing to flee from the country. A lot of people had to flee from where they were, especially if you were a devotee of Christ. So her, Lazarus, and Mary, and in some cases it's considered Mary Magdalene, and that's the reason I said Mary Magdalene earlier, got into a boat, went off to France. This is all an unproven story, no real historical evidence that supports it other than lore and legend of the town and whatnot. So anyway, and I'm just looking over the book to make sure that I don't miss any of this story, because it's very interesting. So she didn't stay with any of the people that she traveled with. I read in one place where it was her, Lazarus, and Mary that all traveled together. Another one says that it was Mary Magdalene, Mary Salome, Mary Jacob, or otherwise known as the Marys of the Sea. And but anyway, as the story goes, Martha went off to France, and she didn't stay with her travel companions. She heard about troubles in Tarascon. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm going to probably mispronounce a lot of stuff in this series, to be honest. But she heard about this town that was being ravaged by this dragon. Now, I like a good dragon tale. This one especially makes me kind of giddy because of the way that it was handled, except for the ending. I really hate the ending. Anyway, not to get ahead of myself. So she went off to this town, Tarascon, and the people initially they're like, this meek little lady from Bethany, what can she do to this dragon? So Martha went up to the dragon, and she charmed it. She removed her girdle, and the dragon willingly wore it, as an obedient dog wears a leash. And this is all out of Mystic Saints and Sages, so if you want to know that reference. And all of that information will also be in the bottom bar. And it goes on to say, unfortunately, Martha could control the dragon, but not the crowd. When she led the tamed Tarasok, which is the dragon, before them, the mob overwhelmed her and killed the Tarasok. Much to Martha's despair and grief, she then disappears from history until the 12th century when a body was discovered in a crypt beside a well in Tarascon. and it was identified as hers. So that is that's about all that I have about the biography of Martha. So, interesting biography. I really hate that they overtook the dragon. I hate that they did that, because I think the story would have been a lot more powerful. So anyway, reasons that you would invoke her. To prevent, banish, or tame bad bosses. She protects against evil spirits and people. Against animal attack. And she heals gallstones and kidney ailments. So yeah, pretty interesting things. Favored people are housewives, those in the service industries, servants, maids, valets, butlers, housekeepers, cooks, waiters, waitresses, food service employees, innkeepers, snake charmers, and travelers. Long list of people that she takes care of. And I really like that. I mean, even the travelers part, that's a broad term. So traditional popular iconography, i.e. holy cards, the little cards that you would get at church, picture her with the Tarasok, but you can't really find that in the iconography anymore. Saint Martha also appears on travelers' amulets with Jesus and Julian the Hospitaller, mispronunciations, sorry, and also her siblings Lazarus and Mary. Attributes are keys, ladle, broom, and girdle. So, yeah, if you choose to honor her on her feast day, maybe get a set of keys and set them out with a candle. You would probably want to use a green candle since that is the color associated with her. Her sacred day is Tuesday. Sacred animal, of course, is a dragon. Sacred plants, rosemary, tarragon, and hyssop. So one thing that you might want to do is if you have a dragon statue like I have a nice wooden one, maybe place a green candle that is anointed and put a set of keys or something like that there with a little bit of hyssop. Rosemary would work fine too. Burning those scents as an offering to her, or just leaving the herb itself there would also work. So leaving an offering of that sort, to have her help look over your house or look over your kitchen if you have a small altar in your kitchen. Having St. Martha look over your kitchen would be a fantastic thing to do. Looking over the house, though, I think would be more appropriate because, you can't relegate somebody just to one room, even though they are the patron saint of cooks. She's also the patron saint of housekeeping and stuff like that. Very much a service type of person, which I find is lovely. That somebody devotes themselves to being in service to others. I find that absolutely lovely. So now we get into Martha the Dominator. So Saint Martha the Dominator is from the dragon story that I told earlier. And again, there's two ways to see her. One, it's an aggressive part of Saint Martha. So, how we all have multifacets and whatnot. That is a different facet to Saint Martha the housekeeper, is Saint Martha the Dominator. So, there's one way to see her. And then the other way to see her is that, as Judika Illies puts here, she is not Martha of Bethany, but a distinct spirit, possibly a forbidden spirit, addressed by the name of an officially approved saint. So, there's two ways to see her. Whether she's the same or not, I do believe that she could and is the same. And I do see that as a different aspect of the same Martha. I think we all have different facets to who we are, and calling her Saint Martha the Dominator kind of encompasses all of it. So I really like that. And that follows the storyline of the dragon that was told earlier, like I said before. And one thing that I like that Judika Illies puts in here is a little. I don't know if this is her commentary but it's in italicized letters. It says, in a sad parallel to the story of Saint Martha and the Tarsok, devotees of Martha the Dominator are allegedly able to tame the male monsters in their lives, but were unable to control the murderous passions of the crowd as represented by the Spanish Inquisition. And Martha the Dominator is sometimes requested to bind men as she bound the Tarsok, and spells attempt to make a man follow the spellcaster like an obedient puppy in the way that the Tarsok followed Martha. So there's kind of a dominating of fellow humans with the Dominator, with Martha the Dominator, which brings up a little question of, isn't that bad? Isn't that something that we shouldn't do? And Judika Illies, of course, in her thoroughness, points that out when she says, is Martha really wicked? Inquisition records suggest that many of the women who invoked her feared the men they attempted to control by magic. These men were perceived as controlling and physically, emotionally, and economically abusive. Although not explicitly articulated, many women who sought Martha's experience as a monster tamer did so because they perceived themselves as being at the mercy of monsters. So, this would kind of be like a justified type of binding. I'm mixed on that. Not that I wouldn't, not that I haven't, but maybe. I can see both sides of it. I really can. Sometimes you just need to do what you need to do and get out of that situation type of thing. So, and I've talked about binding, cursing, and hexing, all that stuff before. So, anyway. And I'm not going to read the Martha the Dominator oil ingredients and the chant that she gives. If you would like to see that, you can go ahead and get her book, Mystic Saints and Sages. I definitely recommend, if you want to work with saints or even just read up on them, this is a wonderful book. Lots of material in there. And it is, like most of Judika Illies' books, jam-packed with appendices and different types of lore and whatnot. So anyway, it's about 700 pages, actually a little over once you include the appendices. So over 700 pages worth of material. Awesome book. Do not regret getting it at all. So if you enjoy some of the lore and everything, you would love this. So anyway, Judika did not give a tarot correspondence in there like she did with Mary Magdalene. So there are two that I came up with, and actually I came up with three. I'm going to limit myself to three. So the first one is the Empress, because the Empress, and this is from the Tarot Illuminati. So the first one is the Empress. The reason I chose the Empress is because the Empress kind of like takes care of the hearth, the home, and she's real warm and nurturing. And also the Queen of Pentacles, which again is in charge of the hearth and home, and a lot of the goodness, a lot of the serving aspects, as I would see it. And then you have Martha the Dominator, which for that one I picked the Queen of Swords, because she's really in charge of her emotions. She's kind of detached from her emotions whenever it comes to that, but she says what she needs to say, like, hey, let me take care of this dragon. And she's really quick and to the point and exact about what she needs to do and how she needs to do it, and is all well thought out. And pretty much encompasses a way of taking charge. So that to me would definitely be a Queen of Swords type of move. She's in charge. She's thought it through, and she doesn't have time to waste. She just wants to get it done, get it over with, and move on to the next course in her life. So that's kind of what Martha the Dominator did when she takes off her girdle, says, okay, you're mine now, let's go. And she's like, I don't have time for this BS. So I really like seeing her in 3 different aspects. I think, and it was quite fun trying to figure out which tarot card I saw her as. I knew I saw her as the Empress, but I kind of had a feeling there was somebody else in there that I need to kind of give a nod to. And for me, that is definitely the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Pentacles too, because of the hearth, the home, and being that stable person in the household, somebody that keeps things together, keeps things running in a standardized way. I hope I'm saying that correctly and not being misinterpreted about it. So I like that aspect of her too. So, but definitely the Queen of Swords and the Empress really spoke out to me on that one. So that's about all that I have here, but I will leave you with a prayer from the Lives of the Saints book that reads, Almighty, ever-living God, your Son was a frequent guest in St. Martha's home. Through her intercession, grant that we may faithfully minister to our brethren and merit to be received in your heavenly home. Amen. Until next time, may you guys have love, hugs, and ladybugs. Bye.